Famous last words are notorious for not being able to predict the future well. But they do convey our inner world magnificently. My name is Natasha, and I lead an innovation consultancy called Blumline, where we study people and culture to design smarter, kinder, wiser futures. My shelter in place did not include any sourdough or much sleep, but it did include working with the healthcare innovation community to try to prop up the system with COVID-19 response through the design thinking lens. We rapidly created a brand and recruited volunteers for PPE challenges, masks, blood donation, but the real challenge was the rising death toll and the end of life, which was really at the center of the entire pandemic. Frontline caregivers were required to make decisions for people they had barely met and required to resuscitate, even when it would cause irreparable harm, which most people didn't know coming in without advance directives. The team and I worked on uncovering insights, and we realized that a journey map was really the best way to tell this story, to illustrate to people the pathway of what happens when you get COVID and you go into the hospital, become intubated, and are likely unconscious. It's not the best way to advocate for yourself or your agency. And a lot of this wasn't tremendously unfamiliar, working with chronic conditions and behavior change. But we had a unique moment in time. The pandemic actually created an opening. We call it a moment of truth, where possibility can become a reality, but people still need solutions. So we created one called Famous Last Words that was set in 3 parts: life, death, and dying. And it was a collective self-discovery ritual, which means looking at self and values first, but in the company of other people where we can actually learn relational dynamics. About burial, mycelium suit, the ash cannon by Hunter S. Thompson, and Tibetan sky rituals. All examples of more creative ways of thinking about the end of life, which is something that we don't usually do. We usually avoid it and treat it as something to fight against. For me, this was motivated by my grandmother, whose end-of-life wishes I know very well. She has multiple DNRs plastered all over her house. But her emotional side is a little harder. I think she has a hard time understanding that she might have a right to think more creatively about aging. Care comes in many forms, like the warm water glove in the Brazilian ICU that comforted a COVID patient, or the butterfly kisses for a cancer patient that were attracted by orange juice. Exploring different cultures and different settings is essential. We can participate in revelry, or we can talk about death through the medical system through paperwork, which sounds super fun. Or we can bring beauty and rouse courage through that. And bring the mystical back into our experience. It isn't by avoiding death that we get more comfortable with it. It's by confronting it, but in a generous way, not in a death porn sense. And one of the best questions I find for this is asking, who is the you of now? Because certainly none of us are who we were 3 years ago. And thank goodness. I'm not. Sometimes you walk through a portal you don't even see coming. And that's the beauty of thinking about futures. We just don't know. It makes it difficult to think about death because we write things like final wishes. But nothing's final. We have to come back to it again and again. We have to slow down. And we have to be willing to revisit it. And to go into spaces that can teach us more than we think they can. So I encourage you to explore collective self-discovery with me. And let me know how you're getting creative.